Hey everyone, this is our first online lesson for Algebra 2 Honors. And I want to tell you, this is much harder than I thought it would ever be. I wanted to give you these lessons because I know math is so visual and hands-on. And if I just gave you an assignment, you wouldn't know how to do it. So I thought, oh, I'll just make some online videos. Yeah, okay. I had no clue how hard this was going to be. This is the third time I've tried to make this same video. The first time, just to be honest with you, I did a 30-minute video, and when I played it back, I was like, oh my goodness, this is a train wreck. I cannot post this. It was awful. So I deleted that one. So then I tried the second one, and I was using my handheld calculator, and I was showing you, oh, push this, push that, and guess what? You couldn't see anything when I played it back. So yeah, that's not good either. So I'm gonna try this again. Let's see how many takes it makes to make one video for this class. All right, y'all, I love you, and that's why I'm doing this. All right, so if you haven't yet, I need you to go to the Google Classroom and print out the note sheet that is there. It's called Roots and Radical Expressions. And it would probably be best to have that like printed out and with you so you can follow along with the problems that I'm gonna do. And then the other thing you need is your graphing calculator. So if you don't have those things, go ahead and pause the video and come back in a second and we'll get started. All right, so we're back, we're ready to go. All right, so we finished the rationals unit before we left school. So now we're on to radicals. So radicals are roots. So roots are like square roots, cube roots, fourth roots, fifth roots, and so on. So we're gonna study those in great detail over the next couple weeks. Okay, so if you look at the top of the first page, the first couple questions look similar to each other. They say, what are the real cube roots of, and then it gives the numbers. Or it says, what are the real fourth roots of, and gives the numbers. So we're gonna be doing that in a second, but I want you to pay attention to what's above that, and it's a little confusing up there, but this is what it means. If you have a cube root is odd. So all of the odd roots will only have one answer. And then when we get to number 2, where it says real fourth roots, 4 is even. When there are even roots, that means that there could be one solution or there could be 2. And I'll tell you the difference there when we go. Okay, so first of all, what are the real cube roots of? Okay, so you'll need your calculator to get these answers. So we're gonna find, first of all, the cube root of 0.008. All right, so go to the calculator, and I'm going to try to show this to you. It's not my handheld calculator because I found that you couldn't see the screen. So I have it instead up on a computer program. So I'm hoping that you can see this. So it looks like your calculator on the left, but then it's gonna show up on the screen on the right side. All right, so cube root. You're gonna go to math on your calculator. It's on the left side. We've gone to this before. Okay, and then cube root is number 4. Okay, so it brings up this on your screen. It should say a root symbol with a 3 there. That's a cube root. So go ahead and put the number in there, which was 0.008, and enter. So your answer should be 0.2. All right. So because it's a cube root and the 3 is an odd number, that means there is only one answer. So for that question, you're going to put down 0.2 as your answer, and that's it. Okay, the next one is the same thing. Go under math and select number 4, cube root, and the number is -1,000. Okay, so we're going to put in the negative symbol, and then 1,000, and enter. Okay, so that time you should get -10. And cube roots only have one answer, so it's going to be just -10 for that one. The next one is back to math. I've lost my mouse. There it is, math, and number 4 again. Okay, this one is a fraction. Let me get it real quick. It is 8/125. Okay, now when you press that one, you get 0.4. Now because the original question was a fraction, our answer should really be a fraction. So I'm going to go under math again. And the first choice is fraction, so press that. And that will change your answer to a fraction, 2/5. Okay, so the key thing to know about this problem, number one, is that it asks for real cube roots. So cube roots, with cube being an odd number, means you're only going to have one answer. So what we found on the calculator, those are our answers. So we had 0.2 for the first one, -10 for the second one, and then 2/5 for the third one. So number one is done. All right, number two. Now this one says real fourth roots. Okay, so you go back to math. You're going to have to go down to number 5, where it has just an X in the corner. This allows you to put in any other number besides a 3. So this is going to need to be a fourth root. So if you press number 5, it's going to depend on the type of calculator that you have, but if you have one like mine, it should come up like this, where there's a box at the bottom of the screen, and you would put the number 4 in that box. Use the arrow button to come over here, and then the number is 1. So fourth root of 1 is 1. Now, if your calculator is a little different, and I know some of you have the TI-83, you'll have to play around with it a little bit, but you will probably have to press the 4 first, then go to math and choose that radical button with the X in the corner, and then put the number in. So you might have an extra stroke to make on your calculator, but you should be able to get this number 1. Now, here's the difference between this problem and number 1. Whenever you have an even root, like this is a fourth root, there's going to be 2 solutions if this number is positive. Because 1 was positive, it has to have plus or minus. So that answer, rather than writing just a 1 for number 2, you're going to put plus or minus 1. Okay, the next one is fourth root again, so go under math, choose number 5, put in the fourth root again, and then the answer is negative 0.0001. Enter. Okay, now this time you're going to see an error message on your calculator. It says error non-real answer. Now the reason for this is because whenever you have an even root, you cannot have a negative number inside of the root. So it will bring up imaginary solutions. So when we were studying quadratics earlier this year, we came up with imaginary results. That's what's going on here. But the question says, what are the real fourth roots? Real being the key word there. So this one does not have any real fourth roots. So for that question, where it says negative 0.0001, you're going to put, there are no real fourth roots. All right, so then back up. The last question, I'm just going to backspace instead of having to retype it all. Fourth root of 16 divided by 81. Okay, and you're going to get a decimal, but I need to have a fraction since the original number was a fraction. So go back to math. I'm finding when I do this, I lose my little mouse. Oops, uh-oh. There it is. Okay, there's my mouse. All right, so math. Fraction is the first choice, and enter. And that would be 2/3. Now, because this is a fourth root, that means there are 2 solutions. So instead of just writing down 2/3, you would put plus or minus 2/3. Okay, so just to recap for number 2, the fourth root of 1 would be plus or minus 1. The fourth root of negative 0.001 would be there are none. And the fourth root of 16 over 81 would be plus or minus 2/3. So the difference between 1 and 2 is that number 1 was a cube root, which is odd. So there was only one answer throughout. But for number 2, they were fourth roots. So you're either going to have 2 answers with a plus or a minus, or you're going to have no answers for that. Okay, so I've showed you how to do the roots on the calculator. So I'm going to refer to this later in the lesson, but I'm not going to come back and show on the calculator each time because I've showed you here how to find those keys. So refer to this if you get stuck later in the video. Okay, so we're going to go further into the lesson now, and now is when I'm going to do some work on the whiteboard. And the good thing is, if I go too fast or if something doesn't make sense, you can always pause it and rewind, or pause it and rewind it, go back to the part about the calculator if you get stuck on something. So that's something you can't do in class, so that's one positive of this online learning stuff. Okay, so let's go on to the next section, 3 through 9. So the question says, simplify each radical and then use absolute value symbols when necessary. Okay, so I'm going to explain now how all this will go. So I'm going to get my whiteboard, and I'm going to need to move my tripod. See, I'm learning that some things just don't work for all parts of the video. Okay, I'm going to have to lower this a little bit. Okay, so hopefully you can see the whiteboard a little better. Okay, so number 3, we're on number 3 now. So the question is radical, that's a square root of 16x to the 8th. Okay, so these questions I want to show you are different than numbers 1 and 2, is because there are no words here. These are just radical symbols. So when you see just the radical symbol, that means it's called the principal root. And principal means only the positive root. So you're not going to put plus or minus for any of these questions. That only applies if it's written out in words rather than symbols. So 3 through 9, do not use plus or minus. Okay, so this is a square root. We've done square roots in this class before, so this should not be too hard. The square root of 16, that is a whole number, so that would be 4. And then you have to deal with this variable, x to the 8th. Now, even though there's not a number here in the corner, a square root implies that there is a 2 right here. That 2 is there, it's just not written. That's a square root. So what you will do with these variables with exponents is you will divide the number by 2. So 8 divided by 2 would be 4. So it would be 4x to the 4th power, and that would be your answer. Now it says use absolute value symbols when necessary. Here's the deal with absolute value. When this is an even number, like it is, a 2, you don't want to have a negative number over here. So you have to test plugging in a negative number for x. What would happen if I plugged in a negative number and raised it to the 4th power? Well, any number that is negative raised to a power of 4 is going to end up being a positive number. So no matter what I put in for x, this is going to be a positive answer. So I do not need any absolute value there. So 4x to the 4th, that's my answer for number 3. That's it. No absolute value needed there. Okay, so let's try number 4. This one is a cube root of a to the 8th and y to the 12th. Okay, so there are no numbers here to deal with, just variables. So you're going to take, that's a 6. Y'all, what I've found since I've been doing this online stuff is that my eyesight is going really bad. I used to only use glasses for reading fine print, and now I've found that I can't read most of the time, and I have to wear glasses now. And I'm starting to think I need stronger glasses. So yeah, I know you don't see me in glasses very often, but you probably will from now on because my eyesight's terrible. There you go. Anyway, all right, so you're going to divide these exponents by the number 3. So 6 divided by 3 will be 2, so a squared, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. Holy cow. Tell you how bad my eyesight is? That's a B, and that's a B. Oh my gosh. Ms. Craig is going blind here. All right, here we go. All right, so those were B's. So sorry, y'all. Did I totally screw this problem up? Y'all, I totally screwed this problem up. I was looking at number 4, but then also looking at number 5, like all at the same time. So I completely blew this problem. I don't want to restart this video. Do you mind? Okay, just give Miss Craig some grace here. I'll give you all some grace for sure. Okay, I was looking at 2 problems at once and kind of melding them together. All right, so number 4, let's make sure I write this down correctly. Cube root of a to the 6th, b to the 9th. Did I write it down this right? I'm gonna triple check myself this time. All right, it's there. All right, so there are no numbers to deal with. I'm gonna do just letters here. So the variable a, the 6 will need to be divided by 3. So that would be a squared. The 9 will be divided by 3. So that's b cubed. Yep, divide them both by 3. Okay, absolute value. Sometimes it's needed, sometimes not. Here's the deal with that. Because this is an odd root right here, that means you don't need absolute value at all because you are allowed to have a negative number under the root. So no matter what, you will not need absolute value if this number is odd. Okay, let's move on to number 5. This is a 4th root of a to the 8th and y to the 12th. Okay, no numbers here, just variables. So we're going to take each exponent and divide by 4. So the a will be squared and the y will be cubed. Alrighty, got it. Okay, does absolute value need to be shown here? Let's figure this out. So because this is an even root, that means you cannot have a negative number under the radical. So you need to test out negative numbers in your answer and see what happens. So if this number is negative and you square it, the answer is going to be positive. So you don't need an absolute value there. Over here, the answer is a cube. So what would happen if you took a negative number and cubed it? A negative number cubed ends up being a negative number, and you cannot have a negative number under an even root. So this one does have absolute value, and it would go around the y cubed because we do not want to have a negative number. So when you give your final answer for number 5, it will have absolute value around y cubed because you cannot have a negative number under a 4th root. Okay, so number 6. We have the 4th root of 2,401, x to the 20th, and y to the 16th. Okay, so I already showed you how to do this on your calculator, so I'm not going to go back to it. I'm just going to do it now. So again, you go under math, and you choose option number 5, and you put a 4 in the little corner, and then 2,401 on the inside, and you should get the answer 7. Okay, so the 4th root of 2,401 is 7. Now I'm going to divide all of these exponents by 4. So 20 divided by 4 would be 5, and 16 divided by 4 would be 4. Okay, do we need absolute value? Well, because the 4 is even, that means we may need absolute value if anything would be negative over here. So test it out. What would happen if I took a negative number and raised it to the 5th power? It would turn out to be negative, so that's not allowed. So we want to be sure that it's positive and put absolute value on it. Over here, if I took a negative number and raised it to the 4th power, I would get a positive number anyway. So you do not need absolute value on that one. So the absolute value should go on the x to the 5th only. All right, so number 7, it's a 5th root of x to the 10th, y to the 15th, z to the 5th. All right. So no numbers on this one, so we can divide each of the exponents by 5. So x to the 10th divided by 5 will be x squared. Y to the 15th divided by 5 would be y cubed. And 5 divided by 5 was 1. You don't need to write a 1. It's understood that that 1 would be there. Does it need absolute value? No, it does not. Because the root is odd here, that means you can have a negative number under the radical. So this does not need absolute value. Okay, so before I go on and erase this, let's look at it again. Some of them have absolute value, some do not. So let's see, when did it happen? Okay, so notice whenever the type of root was odd, like this was a cube, and then this one down here was a 5th power, I didn't need absolute value at all. So that's the rule. Odd roots, no absolute value needed. Go to the ones that were even, like the original one was a 2 here, or this one was a 4, this one was a 4. All the even ones could possibly need absolute value. And notice that when I did put absolute value on it, it was when the exponents were odd that I did that. I didn't on the even here. I didn't on the even here. So odd exponents with even roots require absolute value. And again, if you didn't catch that, stop the video and rewind what I just said, because that was important. All right, I'm going to erase it and go on. That was number 7. Okay, so let's go to number 8. So number 8 is the 4th root of 256, g to the 8th over h to the 4th, k to the 16th. All right, so here, the number 256, I have to figure out what the 4th root of that is. So I'm not going to show it, but go under math, go down to number 5, put the 4th root in, and the number is 256. Okay, so the 4th root of 256, you should get 4. All of the exponents, I'm going to divide them by 4. So g will be squared. H will be like h to the 1st. I'm not going to write a 1. And then k to the 4th power. Okay, so does this need absolute value? Maybe so. So because this is an even root, that means that any odd exponent over here would require absolute value. That's an even, so no. That's an even, so no. But look at h. H is really like h to the 1st power, so that's an odd power. So I would have to have absolute value on that one. All right, so that would be it for number 8. All right, number 9, cube root a to the 6th, b to the 9th over c cubed. All right, so we're going to divide all of them by 3. So that'd be a squared, b cubed, and then c. Because this is an odd root, I do not need absolute value at all. So no absolute value needed there. So one more time. You use absolute value whenever you have an even root with an odd exponent. If it's an odd root, no absolute value is needed. Got it? I know that's tough, but that's the rule. Okay, so that's page 1. Page 2 is on, coming up, number 10 is next. And this side is actually easier than the front side, so don't worry that it's going to get harder. Actually gets easier, which is something that doesn't normally happen in my class, does it? All right, so number 10. So we got a cube root of 16 times a cube root of 4. All right, so multiplication, the rule is, as long as these numbers are the same, like both of these are cube roots, you are allowed to multiply the numbers inside. So you would still have a cube root, but you would say, what is 16 times 4? And you can use your calculator if you don't know, but it should be 64. And then if you were to put the cube root of 64 in your calculator, you would get the answer 4. So that would be simplified. It says simplify if possible. Okay, number 11, we've got the, oh my goodness, let's see, the 4th root of 16 times the 4th root of 24. All right, so they're both 4th roots. That means that you can multiply the numbers inside. So I don't know that one off the top of my head. Let me figure it out. 16 times 24 is 384. So you keep it as a 4th root, but put 384 on the inside. So can it be simplified? Well, let's find out. Go under math, choose number 5, and put in 4th root of 384, and your answer is a decimal. I'm getting like 4.426727, and so on. Yeah, that is not a whole number. So if it's not a whole number, you can just leave it in the form that it's in. So that would be your answer, 4th root of 384. It's not able to simplify. Okay, and then 12, we've got the 4th root of 35 times the cube root of 10. Now this one is different in that this is a 4th root and that's a cube root. You cannot multiply these together because they don't have the same type of root. A 4 and a 3 don't match, so you're not allowed to multiply those two together. So this one is done as it was at the beginning. So 3 things could happen. Either you can multiply, but then get a whole number as the answer. You can multiply it, but find out that you don't get a whole number, so you leave it in this form. Or it could be that you can't multiply at all because the two roots are not the same. So those are the three things that can happen. So that's multiplication of radicals. I'm going to erase this. Pause it if you need to catch up. Okay, so dividing works kind of the same way in that as long as it's the same type of root, you will be able to divide. So both of these are square roots on number 13, so we are allowed to say 8 divided by 2 is 4, and we all know that the square root of 4 is 2, so we got that. Okay, so 14 cube root of 54 divided by cube root of 2. They're both cube roots, so you can keep it a cube root. If you divide 54 by 2, you get 27 as your answer. And if you type this in the calculator, going under math and choosing cube root, you will find that the cube root of 27 is 3. And number 15, the fourth root of 80 divided by the fourth root of 5. They're both fourth roots, so you would be able to divide them. 80 divided by 4 is 16. And if you were to type in your calculator, fourth root of 16, you would get the answer 2. So all of those were whole numbers. Now look at 16. I'm not going to write 16 out because notice that one is a fourth root and one is a cube root, so you would not be able to divide those two numbers. There's nothing you can do to 16. So 16 would be the same answer that it is now. Fourth root of 162 over cube root of 2. 16, you can't do anything to that. All right, again, pause it if you need to catch up. You can't pause me in real life, but you can pause me here for sure. All right, so two more, 17. So we got x to the fourth equals 1296. Okay, when we were studying quadratics earlier this year, whenever we would have x squared equals a number, we would take the square root of both sides of the equation. So here the only difference is we're going to take the fourth root of both sides of this equation. So you're going to figure out what the fourth root of 1296 is. So again, put that in your calculator under math. Pick number 5. Fourth root of 1296 is 6. Now if you look at the directions say find 2 real solutions of each equation. So the goal, or the idea here, is that because this is an even root, there would be 2 solutions. So rather than just 6, you're going to put plus or minus 6. That's the second solution. One's plus, one's minus. Okay, last problem and we'll be done for the day. What if it's x to the fourth equals 4096 divided by 6561? All right, so again, we're going to take the fourth root of this same number. Okay, so go to your calculator, do math, fourth root, put that fraction in there, 4096 divided by 6561, and you will get a decimal like 0.8888 repeating. Okay, but since the original problem was a fraction, I would like my answer to be a fraction. So go under math, choose fraction, and you should get 8/9. And remember, you're supposed to be getting 2 solutions here, so it's plus or minus 8/9. And remember, pause this if you need to catch up. All right, y'all, so I know that was a lot to understand at one time, so you may need to look at the video again and see if you missed anything. So from here, what I want you to do is go and print off the worksheet that I've given and work on those problems. And what I plan to do sometime Tuesday probably is I'll call a chance for us to do a Google Meet and we can talk live in person about the problems if you like. Or if you would rather not do that, you're welcome to text me on either Remind or my Google Voice number. The number is 863-417-9602. So until next time, you all, I hope this was not too awful, and I hope I get better at this. I do love you and I do miss you, and I'm doing this for you so that you can still learn the material. So I hope you appreciate that. I love you all. Bye-bye.